Okay, hello everybody. This is Dean Bell, Kevin Smith, Wendy Sky, and we're here with the New Education Show, first one of its kind here. And today we're interviewing one of our hosts, Wendy, who is part of this program to help children to see more, become more aware, and really get out of the literalized position that the indoctrinated systems have put them in, unfortunately. So there's a lot more that can be done with the kids and to help them, assist them to see, to have better survival, actually. So, hi, Wendy. Hi, Kevin. I know, Kevin, you have a lot of questions here, so go ahead.
Hi, Kevin. Hi, Val.
Hello. Hello, Wendy.
Okay, well, I thought the best place to start would be for Wendy to introduce herself and give us a little background information on how she came to find the new presentation.
Hi, guys. I'm Wendy Sky, and I have been in this journey for a while. I went to YouTube to find how not to get entrapped in the hole of when I leave this life, how not to be reincarnated again. And then I was led to Anton's YouTube channel, which had a video that was featuring information of Duane's information Duane has brought through his book and his teachings and his SoundClouds. That's how I was introduced to all of Duane's information he's brought through. I have 3 children. I live here in Texas. It's quite suffocating, the air, the heat. And we have gone through quite a few years of transition ever since coming to the information of Duane's and the Real Guides and the whole of life. Coming to that information has began a path that has been all of these years and gotten us to a nice, steady, we've been guided quite nicely to where we are today. Here and now is where we are today, but in the literal sense to where we are. So it takes quite a lot. It takes a lot to get here. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Anton the Russian and his various YouTube videos that he created. Because in fact, when I joined the new presentation, I think it was November of 2017, it was through one of Anton's videos that I approached the new presentation through. I was just doing a random YouTube search. I had the intuitive urge that I was looking for something. And then when I came across it, it was almost like a spark of recognition that this was what it was. And as I remember, it was a series that Duane had produced with Kelsey back in the day, where they had made a series of 8 real wake-up videos, and I listened systematically through those, and they were produced and released on YouTube by Anton. So the next question, I suppose, the next area to go into would be, would you like to explain this new homeschooling operation that you are a part of, how it works, the structure of it, just an overall, so we can get an overall overall idea of how it operates and works?
Oh gosh, that's a loaded whole bit, but I'm doing my best to not talk so much and keep it simple. So I will just start with where we are. It's life school, because as the teacher, the parent, the everything, the one who bore these children through into this here and now, I had to make quite a lot of choices. And one choice was how we live life and how to get them to a self-sustained position that took me decades to get to, but how to move them into it as a normal, not where it's, oh my gosh, that's what I need to do. Oh, why didn't I learn that when I was 2? Why didn't I learn that when I was in kindergarten? Why wasn't I taught that? So that was a very pivotal point for me when I began to set out how to structurally put our life together. There's a lot that goes through when you've got 3 bouncing children around you 24/7. There's a lot that people don't understand if they do not have children or know people who have children or have ever been in a life with lots of children. And 3 isn't a lot to some people, but it's quite a lot. So we have been guided. I have been guided on how to do it with 3 different awarenesses. I've got my own, but then I've got theirs. And that's very important because they are not all the same. They're coming from different, they've got all the bodies and all the information that they're coming from. And you can see it in the children if you evaluate them. You can almost see what they're dealing with, the baggage they brought through in their awareness, and it will come out in the various things they're interested in. So it takes someone to be there to help guide them and appropriately explain things. If someone is not there to take the time to appropriately explain things to the children, so much is lost. That's why you see all the types of people that you do now, because they don't have many outlets and there isn't someone actually explaining things truthfully. There's a difference there as well for people who explain things very surface and those who explain things age appropriately with the full on truth. You're going to give them the lie, the truth, and the in between. So that is how I base our life schooling, is around teaching them everything, the entire plane of information, the societal systems, the lies and propaganda and media operated everything, the subconscious, the brainwashing, the programming, the everything that entails. And then you've got to also teach and train them on a nice balance and recognition of the whole of life, which then brings in quite a lot of peace, if you want to use that word. It brings in a nice subtle layer of icing to our cake to allow the children what you would call happiness. When you evaluate your children, and you can see such a difference between children who really don't understand and then children who understand. There's a nice little balance of peace and happiness, and that's very important for my children. So our life school is based around so many components, but still steady and remaining in a here and now, recognizing life itself. That's the biggest part to continue to instill in them as they go through little challenges as they age, and things that they deal with public school friends, things they deal with in our homeschool co-ops. So in a nutshell, I've been guided and have moved nicely, very well, but very difficult, very challenging, to where we are at a nice little even keel in our life school, in the way that we run our daily life, in the way that we construct everything, in how I'm teaching self-sustainability, vegetable garden, earthing, grounding, hands in soil every day, hydrating, plant-based, whole food eating, clean eating, sharing is caring type of thing. And then mainly just recognizing what the sun is demonstrating, something so simple that has always stuck with me since I listened to those SoundClouds years ago of Duane's and Kelsey's. So what is the sun demonstrating? When they get into situations, I just say, what's going on here? What do you recognize? And then we walk through things. So it's a lot of hand holding, if you might call it that, but it's not in a suffocating manner of not allowing them to be self-sufficient, strong, and being able to solve things on their own. You would be quite impressed that I trust my 13-year-old with my children more than any of my ex-husbands or anyone on my street or any of my best friends. He's that self-motivated, courageous, brave, and it's almost like he knows what to do sometimes. But then again, a little pat on the back, it comes from taking that time with him and the others. The time has to be taken with them. There is too much of us seeing where people just, what for are they having children for? Because they're just like, go send them off to the school, and then the sitter picks them up from the school, and then the parents aren't home until dinner. And we see a lot of where kids are just thrown to the wolves, kind of. So in a nutshell, that is a roundabout of our life school and how we got there, and that it's a continuous thing. It's not ending. It's not like we've gotten there and yay, we're there, we're happy. We have continuous everything. It's just ongoing. So hopefully that answered it, all of what you were looking for there.
Wendy, I'm curious if you are incorporating the dreams and the multidimensional aspect of life, and if you are, or how you're doing that.
Well, how we do that is that each child has a dream journal, and it's on the main chalkboard in the kitchen, and they each have a dream book. We started it when I was comfortable, because Kevin may not recall, but I know Val, you will. I had a bumpy first few years with the information that Duane has brought through the books, the podcasts, the YouTubes. I absorbed so much, and I just jumped right in and just drowned myself in everything. And I went a bit too fast and didn't allow for a lot of processing, that I had a few bumpy years of the information. I came at Duane with, accusations of using the children and just little attitudes that I was working through. And that is very key for anyone coming to the information. The attitudes are going to be there because we've got to work through that. And if you're not able to jump each hurdle, then you're going to stay stuck in that race. So as I jumped through each hurdle, it was such a challenge because I went through many little things with not presenting information to the children that I was learning and absorbing. And then there were things that I would present to the children, and I would ask them even early on into that information. I'm really trying to recall right now how many years it's actually been. I'm going to say 3 to 4 years now, but second year I introduced dream journals to them, and each child I spent time with. And so at first I was pressing, and then I was guided not to press, to just introduce it, allow the outlet of where it would be, and that outlet is the dream journal. And first, when they first wake, first of all, there's training that has to be done, because it took me years to be able to get a routine down. And I actually speak to my awareness right before sleep. So I stopped pressing it, and then we built a system around how to train each child, Jeffrey, Willow, and Raymond, when they wake. If it was something that, so how we've built the system around is that they will run and say, oh, I remember where I was, what I was doing. And then we will get together and they'll tell me immediately. It's like they will rush to tell me. So that's part of the system, because they have done the trial and error of waking and then thinking, oh, I'm going to tell mom what I saw. I'm going to tell mom. And then they come into the kitchen and they go, oh, mom, I forgot. Oh, mom, I forgot. And I go, I know that feeling. So it's an immediate thing now where the system is, they run, they come tell me, and then we grab their book. And Jeffrey Clayton, he's now able to write. So meaning write sentences. He's only 7. He's now writing sentences. So now I don't help him with his book, but Raymond and Jeffrey Clayton now will write in their dream books, just whatever they can recall, whatever they pulled from, whatever they recall. And what they've struggled with often is it something they're making up as they woke and they piece it together? So they struggle sometimes with going, Mom, I don't know if I just imagined that or if that was actually in the dream. And I say, just write down what you recall. If you think it's something you just made up right now and you're just kind of adding it into the little ingredients mix of the cake batter, doesn't matter. Just write down what you'd like to write down, just for reference for them and getting into that process of being able to do that with their own awareness. It's not for me. It's to present the information. And it's not really laying a foundation of concrete for them. It's them really getting their hands in the soil underneath that concrete, because once they're able to be in touch with their other 4 bodies, the baggage, the information, the real guides, the jokesters, the situations, their aura, their other bodies, the astral realm, the endlessness, it goes on and on. the sooner that they train with themselves and continue that process, that way, the better it will be as they go along when I present the information of our life schooling, which involves a lot of things. It involves a lot of, the sound clouds, the information, the books. Each book is highlighted with tabs. So I've pushed through so many of Duane's books and then have had to go back and reread and highlight and tab as part of their life schooling. So that plays a significant part. If they don't have that soil underneath the foundation that we're building of the information and the references, that was very key to me, basically, was to present their real side experiences and their dream visions and have a process and a system for them to be able to hold themselves accountable so that they have something they can look back on and go, oh yeah, I remember that one where, this, and this. And then they can go back and pull from it. And it will just begin that kind of in touch with themselves thing. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Do you share your experiences with them as well?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. Every single one that I wake up, I will tell them, even ones that are really far out there and involve, sometimes there's ones that I see that involve quite a lot of ickiness going on the planet. I still tell them in age appropriate ways. Raymond, for the last 3 years, I've always told him straight out because he's been educated as to pedophilia, rape, types of aliens, types of jokesters, what the government puppets are, the underground, the dark web, everything icky going on, vaccines, everything he's privy to. He's been privy to a lot of this since he was not 9 to 10. So Raymond, I can tell full out without having to not sugarcoat, but to age appropriately present it. There's a science to that, not really science, but there are ways that I have been trained myself and guided by the Real Guides, my awareness of how to present it to them in a way that can be processed and also that's age appropriate, meaning it's also awareness appropriate. There are ways to do it, and it's a lot of talking slow and a lot of engaging where they're at as well. So it really does take someone to be there, taking that time with them. Otherwise what? You expect the air to do it. You expect to ship them off and have someone else do it. What for? I'm going through it. So I'm able to share what's going on. I just knew I always had to. So I always tell them everything I can about what I see, what I experienced, how odd it was. The other night, I was a murderer. I went and killed someone, and I got to see the entire scene start to finish, why I did it. And they tried to apprehend me, but I was too cool for school. Anyway, I was able to escape, what I did upon escaping, just everything. I mean, there's even ones where we saw that their father shot me, and then CPS came. So there was an entire whole spiel of that, where I told them exactly what happened when CPS came, the process, me crying, the police SWAT coming. It was just an awful experience. And it was like a movie, but I tell them everything for their awareness, because the more that they can take in as at a young age, the better, based on, I speak from my experiences. For me, the more that I can present to them now, in these very important years, the better for the life that I'm hoping to help pave for them. Although I know they will end up taking their own path and their own journey, but it's very important because I had decades where I didn't have that. So I know what it's like not to have it. So I spend the time to do it with these children.
So this first question, is there a situation where the new homeschool children are rather separated from the vast majority of children of their age group, in that all other children will be following the standard indoctrinating educational systems and being absorbed into the social consciousness as it stands. But the children of the new homeschooling will not, and will this then create rather a divide on the surface, and not a bad thing, as who wants their children to be assimilated into the systems and consciousness? But does it make it so that they are interacting less with those of their own age? And might this have an adverse effect, perhaps rendering them less socially inclined?
Okay, I can speak from our household and my children alone. I can't speak from the many other homeschool families we've experienced, because we've experienced quite a lot of homeschool families. So I'm going to speak from our family. Yes. Yes, there is a divide, but not in the sense of a divide that should be perceived as negative. It's a divide that if they are presented with the information to decipher and understand and recognize what the educational systems have in them, what it's like, show them references of what it's like, explain to them, detail it, and even present like videos to show them things, which I have. There is a divide in the sense that they will always have little feelings. They're very well aware that feelings, senses, the mind are mechanics. So whenever situations happen that arise, I'll give for an example, Willow. She is 5 going on 6 in about 2 weeks. She is the girl. Raymond and Jeffrey are the boys. The Willow always goes through some situations where she has a best friend who is across the way in the cul-de-sac, a best friend that is public school. She also has best friends that are not public schooled. So she gets a great little foundation, because she is able to see and experience quite a lot between the homeschool besties and her public school bestie. She has 2 public school friends, but one is her best friend. So with her, we experience a lot of situations, but as far as mine being socially inclined or lack thereof, mine are not, because they've had training and also their own awarenesses and personalities. For mine, I don't worry for that at all. I don't worry for mine not to be able to communicate with people. Mine are taught that when you see people, it's, wouldn't you want someone to smile and wave at you? So what's the best practice that we could do when we're at a park, when we're bike riding, when we go to farmers markets? We are friendly and say hello. It's just the nature of the foundation I wanted to present to the children. Whereas we deal with a lot of people in our area whom it's very scary for them to even say hello. They're very, or snobby, where they don't say hello and they look away. There are systems that I've kind of put in place that are based around kindness, which is very lacking in society. So if you speak about this, where you think of the vast majority of children that are in the public school, private school educated, indoctrinated systems, you see a vast difference between the children and the way they are. Is there a divide? People create divides, so divides will always be there. But I'm always explaining to the children here, Willow will say, Willow's the example I was about to give you. She's, Mom, is Parker home from her school bus yet? Is Parker home from her school bus? Can we go play? And I say, Willow, she's still at school. What is she doing there all day long? Willow, I always explain to you what she's doing there all day long. Come, let's sit, let's talk about it. And then I explain to her the process of what Parker is having to do while she's there from 7 to 3:45 p.m. And that once she gets off that school bus, she has a transition time before she is even wants to play, because she's coming down from being in the system of the educational system. There's a lack of everything when you're in the educational system, when you're in that facility, when you're having to go through the motions, that is there. So when someone can explain to homeschool, life school, road school children, or rather they have experienced it themselves, Raymond comes from being able to have the experience, because he is the main reason why I pulled him from the educational systems. His situations were why I began homeschooling. So he can pull from 1 or 2 years of daycare before I became aware. He also can pull from pre-K and one little part of kinder that he pulls from as far as remembering what that system was like. So as I explained to the children, it's a double-edged sword with many things. There's so much duality in everything that sure, the children might have an adverse effect of not being around the public school system and children. But what I explain to them is that I provide quite a lot and have been guided to be, and our life has been shifted and come to a nice way of where we're able to provide field trip Fridays, where I take them on field trips, which is usually hiking or trail rides. Specific plant nurseries. We'll go to really large plant nurseries, or we'll take trips to Austin or Holes in the Wall or the Blue Lagoon, very nature driven field trips. So they have that, which I explained to them is also in public schools, but they go to more commercial type of field trips, not so much of, it's very corporate, like when I recall the field trips I would go on when I was in the educational systems. So if it is explained to them, and you're able to get them out of the feelings of, oh, I'm missing out, and you're able to supply a type of lifestyle at home. My children do not miss out on social meetups. They don't miss out on picnics. They don't miss out on field trips that are nature driven. They don't miss out on physical activity. They don't miss out on having friends and friend interactions. They don't miss out on parents' night out events at the local gymnastics place. They go and experience public school kids there all the time, which is a great experience for them. So that's why I continue to afford that, because they're able to be with public school children and see what public school children are like. And so the divide is there, because there will always be a divide when the system is not the same. Public school system is not the same at all as to what is provided in our life, in our homeschooling life. They are outside usually all day long. The children at public schools are not usually outside all day long. So there is a big difference. For me, it just is, and it just will be, but I do my best in providing alternatives to what they think and what they know happens in public schools. I have been able to provide little things that are enough for them. So I do not have concerns anymore about their well-being, their emotional being with other children. And I like that my children have the ability, and I would not have it any other way, to have great friends that are homeschooled and great friends that are in public school.
Question number 2. Okay, so do the children still participate in the standard education systems, or are they able to be kept from them? And if they do have a foot in both worlds, in both realities, as it were, how do they balance out the two different realities they are operating within? Do they have any issues through the misunderstandings of the one-dimensional teachers and parents of their indoctrinated children, for example? And indeed, do they get along with other children who are not in the new school program? Or is it rather difficult for them to relate to children who are standardized and indoctrinated, and vice versa? I think you may have answered a fair bit of that already in the first question.
I did. But it's best to follow it up by saying that if someone isn't there to help explain to the children, then, like I've said before, a lot is lost. They will not understand. They may some children may understand, but it is best when it is explained to them. So for an example, that day when Willow was begging for Parker to come home, sitting down and explaining to her, she goes, "Oh, well, Mom, that's kind of like in that show we watched where the kids just sit there at that desk all day." And I said, "Well, it's not all day that they sit at the desk, but that is a primary part of the schooling system." They say they're not there to socialize in school. They say that their noses should be to the books. Mom says we shall socialize and be kind to everything, even willy worms and caterpillars. And Mom says that we should stick our hands in soil. So I said, there's a difference, Willow, and it's okay that your best friend has the life she has. She has that life. And everyone here is doing as what their awareness and their intent is for this lifetime. I said, Mommy has had to work through years, at least 2 years of working through the feelings of, gosh, these people are so ridiculous. Like, why can't they just wake up? And to get to the point of where I am now, where I'm able to teach the children, let's have empathy and sympathy for those who don't understand or who aren't at the level of awareness to recognize what they're having shot into their bloodstream, or that's for an example. So once I explain to them, have empathy, but then let's be grateful. And then also on top of that, kids, let's continue to recognize what we have been guided to, the information that we are at. I always say to them, can you please just know how hard it was for Mom to get here? It was really, really hard for me to get here to this information. And so I tell them, although you see a life and you are living in a life where everything that you look at, from shows, from marketing and the phones that you use, from going into the store and the markets, it's there on the TVs, it's on the radio, it's everywhere of the systems that are in place here. For you to be raised outside of those systems, I know those little one-dimensional feelings that you may have, but I'm here to help you with those feelings because I spent years working through those feelings and literal one-dimensional things as well. Let's hurdle that together. And if when you get older and you've hurdled all of this with me and with our life and with the Real Guides and with life itself and with your awareness and all your other bodies and your subconscious and your unconscious and your ego and your what is the one that fights the ego? Anyhow, I tell them there's so much at play, but it's all unseen. I said, I get that challenge for you as children to be being taught things that are unseen, and then to be around so many people that don't even recognize, nor have the information, nor desire to know the information, even if you were to put it right in their face. It is very challenging to be around an entire society and world and planet and people whom you may not be able to relate, but let me guide you on that relatability. Let me help you as you go through these years, these important years. And then also, Mommy recognizes that even though I will spend all these years getting you prepared to leave the nest, I will take zero accountability or have any, not zero accountability, but I will not have any sadness for any path that they choose because it is their path. Just as them being, in a world with teachers and parents of kids that they just ship off, they're in a world surrounded by that. We see it with everything. We're around it. We recognize it. We see it. However, I teach them and I'm able to guide them because I've been taught and I've been guided. So it is very important for me to continue that for them as well. So ideally that answered that well for you. It's not difficult for mine to relate because they're being taught and they're being shown resources and information and they're around it. So that's why it's not difficult for them. For mine.
although parents naturally would want the best for their children, and with aware parents, they would recognise far better what would be beneficial for the child from a making sense with life and awareness supporting a perspective. How might a parent be certain this is what a child would actually want? For as guardians of the children, the parents very much have the keeping of the child's placement and positioning in life on the physical, and even if it was in the child's best awareness interests, might it not be the case that a child can perhaps be an individual far from ready for the process of awareness, but would go along with what the parent provides, as children generally do?
I've said a lot so far. So let me start out that I have evaluated each child since coming to this information, and then also gearing up a way of how to communicate with them, how to discipline, how to guide them, how to nurture each one, because they're all so different. So first I'll say that it takes quite a lot to be able to do the type of life that we do. First of all, to not be in line with the educational systems, all the systems at play, for us not to be voters, for us not to be part of the educational system, for us barely to be even on the grid, so to speak. We are outside of the norm. So that is a huge thing in itself. Me evaluating each child was very important because I struggled with that in the first few bumpy years of coming to this information. I struggled with, whoa, I might be coming to this information, but how am I supposed to raise these kids now that I've come to this information? I think I may have once sent a wacky email to Duane about that, because I thought, how am I supposed to be at this information? And I've got 3 kids and I have no idea what their background is. I've gone through the soul plan idea. I've gone through the idea that we made agreements with each other, that they knew they were coming into this life of everything here. And so a lot of that was part of evaluating each child after getting to this nice place that we're at. This kind of even keel is what I'm speaking of when it's a nice place, is that after evaluating each one and speaking to them a specific way, I've been able to build a type of communication with each child. That was a very big primary concern of not knowing if they were ready for this information, if they're going to be one who actually takes the information and, wants to follow through with living a self-sustained life that's just enough, or if they want to go a path of fame and this and that. So it's been a struggle to go through those ideas, but I'm finally at the place where I told them, not that I have zero accountability, but that I'm very happy to present the information to them so that they have it under their belts. But I know that they will go out into the world and make the choices that they're going to make when they're of that age, and that it's not going to hurt me or hurt my feelings that they don't follow through with anything. For an example, you might be getting into that in a minute. Duane's daughter, she is a good example of that as well. So I've just decided that I tell them this not quite often, but I've told them this often enough, that even though they have a life school childhood, when they get to the age where they feel that they are ready, I told them, you are more than welcome to take the savings that I've been saving for you and open that bakery, or start up that farmer's market, or start your own secret garden of plant sharing and selling. You are able to skip out on the college schooling systems, or if you want to take that route and take that money and put it into college schooling, you can do that. You can do that route. I'm saving for you and for what you decide to do later. So that way they understand, as their guardian, the one who's making these choices for them and providing the life school life for them. I explain to them very often that I feel they're fortunate to have this life. However, I understand if later on they may decide that, gosh, I missed out. Mommy didn't send me to public school. I told them you will have many opportunities later to go to any type of trade school, to go to any college that you want to go to, and you can experience what those school systems are like. And even if that's not enough for you then, children, you may also have more lifetimes on other planets, this planet, wherever you end up going, you have that opportunity as well. So for right now, it's best if you settle that mommy has gotten very far to get here where we are and to have the life that we have. And so I would like for you to get on the train, if you're able to, with your awareness and just with your whole being, to be grateful that we have this opportunity and this information, because I've come very far to get here. And so it's very important in my stepping up to spend the time with these 3 children individually with this information. Hopefully that sums, not hopefully, we don't really operate in the hope, faith, or belief ideas either, just to tag that on as well. To raise the children outside of hope, faith, and belief, a trinity of just deceit, they also experience quite a lot as well when we don't operate within belief, faith, or hope, when this entire society and all the systems are built around those. So just to add that on.
Nothing is by chance or coincidence. We are positioned according to our decisions and intent. Those very much mired in creation and chasing the wants of the personal self are rather resigned to floundering around in cause and effect creation. But with those that choose to become more aware, if the intent is maintained, they rather establish more a direction in keeping with the overall purpose of is recognition. And if this purpose and direction is maintained across lifetimes, individuals who maintain this intent on transition will be positioned in their next lifetime physical positions that make the most sense for where they are in their overall process of awareness. Duane's daughter, for example, was a former high-ranked echist from Paul's day, before it fell to the reptilians, and as she maintained her real intent, she would find herself positioned as Duane's daughter, obviously a position that would afford her the best possible opportunity for the continuation of her process. Would you say then that all the children who now find themselves positioned with parents who are putting them through the new homeschooling that is beneficial awareness-wise are overwhelmingly those who very likely are picking up where they left off from a previous lifetime? Do you perhaps see indicators of this? The real guides perhaps featuring very much in their real side experiences, just as they did with Duane's daughter.
So to answer the first part, because I answered a little bit of that, there was a little bit in the other step. I have often spoken with each child individually when we go over their real side experiences, how they're feeling, their one-dimensional literal sides, what they're struggling with this week. Basically, what I do is well-being checks, and those are done like 1 time a week, usually on a Saturday or a Sunday on the relaxing days for us. It's just a well-being check. Where are they at? How are they feeling? What do they want to talk to me about? What are they curious about? What are they thinking about? I don't jot down notes or anything, but I do secretly record it just so I can take notes for them later in the little books that I keep for them. So that is probably a little bit cringy, but I record it because I don't have a good memory at all. So, and things get distorted when I go to try to recall things very well. So anyhow, oftentimes with each one in their well checks, I'll ask them, how are you feeling? Do you have any sense of anything coming through or an urge of this? And sometimes I do feel that they have a knowing and they are okay with our life. They have a knowing that, and my gosh, like, I tell them about the love idea all the time, but these children love me so much. I just look at them and I'm like, why? Why do you love me? I'm crazy, but they are so, yes, I do see indicators that they are very well aware. And I do see indicators that they know more than they can express. And that through the next few years, the idea of time, the illusion, but in the next set of things, I do feel that they'll be able to put words to what seems like there aren't words for. Because sometimes when I'm talking, even right now, I'm like, how did I even find the words to explain that? Because for me, a lot of this doesn't even have English words. There's not a word to it. It's more of like a frequency, like a musical sound to what I need to express. Even when I say the love for my children, that word just isn't enough to explain what I have with these children. They're really great. And so it's a challenge to raise them when I don't know what they're coming from. I don't know how many lifetimes they've had, but oftentimes when I do talk to them, sometimes I'll just randomly ask questions, and it's really just a gauging process, and just a thing that I've kind of come around to doing with them is just to kind of just gauge things with where they are and where their awareness is. And it's more so from a curiosity point, also in the light of and with the intent to assist them. Each one, they are very different and they have so many different things about them. And I'm using the word different so much, but it's difficult to express what I'm trying to say, because as you move through an entire day with people, you have to realize mine aren't shipped off anywhere for a long period of time during the day. They are with me wake to night, even in the night. So there's a lot of getting to know them. There's a lot of everything of living with them. And a lot of people in the society we are around and the people we go to functions with that might be non-homeschoolers, non-life schoolers, what have you, their lives are very different when my children hear them explain things like, oh, I barely even get to see my daughter. I come home and I only have about an hour to play with her. They cannot relate to that in the sense of their mommy being that way. So they often have a very big, grateful heart to have the opportunity to have a mother who has this kind of time with them. So I see a lot of indicators that they're aware. However, in time, I may see what they're wanting to communicate later on when they have not tools, but when they're able to do it in the time that they're wanting to do it individually. So I do feel that they're all coming from different lifetimes of baggage, different everything. Jeffrey Clayton is a very big example of why that became so prevalent to me to begin to evaluate, because he had quite an obsession with death, with wars, with guns, with zombies, with it seemed like an unhealthy addiction to it at such a young age. Coming from Raymond and then having another son, I did not experience that type of stuff with Raymond. So he was a very alert for me of, let's figure this out. Let's help him work through this. Let's gauge where this is coming from. Let's communicate with him a little bit more about it. And so that's what happened. So I hope that as well answered that one up for you.
What are your experiences of the difference between the children in the new homeschooling and those that are going through the standardized literal indoctrination of the systems of schooling? Is there a markable difference? Are the children perhaps more intuitive, creative, and imaginative, retaining and utilizing better these parts of the personal self, rather than becoming literalized and very much locked into the consciousness of their more limited literal mind and emotions?
Yes, there is a markable difference. It's it's apples and oranges at that point, if you want to say so. But it's not in the sense of it being negative or positive. It's in the idea of it being a recognized thing. So working through that of being, oh my gosh, I get to homeschool. Oh my gosh, I'm on the upside. Oh my gosh, I'm so lucky. I'm very glad I worked through those little ideas and senses and feelings, because really there are many mothers who would like to homeschool and be home with their children whom cannot. The lifestyle that they have does not make that possible. There are ways to make it possible. We know this, right, Val and Kevin? However, they lack the resources, awareness, and so on to be able to take those steps to do that. So in a sense, there is a remarkable difference, because it is night and day when you are around the children whom are in those systems. There are a few that don't apply. We all know this, but for a vast majority of the class of 30 kids in one tiny room, there is a very big difference between the children whom roam their entire property and whom are outside and in touch with nature, animals, food that they're growing right from the ground to eat and bring in for our lunch, for our home picnic. There's a big difference in those children. It's two different systems. It's two different lifestyles. There's a big difference in the way that those children behaved and how much they're exposed to as well. Willow has experienced death being so young and being a girl and extremely impressionable. I've had to experience things with her that I did not have to experience with the other two. And in a sense, I'm going like this because it's been just mind-boggling that it seems to get younger and younger and younger every year that goes by. These kids just want to grow up so quick. But in addition, we've got to tag into that they are being exposed to quite a lot more than we were. I always express such empathy to them because they have to process 1,000 times more information per second than we did. So there is a difference in the sense that we both know there's two different systems going on. If we want to use the word freedom, we shall use it here. There is a lack of freedom in the system that states they have freedom, and where they brainwash them into the idea that they live in a world with freedom, when really they are slaves to systems. And that's okay. And that system is there. And a vast majority of people are utilizing those systems, and that's okay. But when you're able to step outside and recognize it, you're like, oh my gosh, it's such a system where how did I get so stuck in it? How did I not know the hypocrisy right there in my face? It was written right there and then told right there, and it took all these years to see it. It's kind of like that kind of moment. And then you've got the children whom are over here, whom have a true freedom. They wake up, they decide what type of fruit they want for breakfast, or if they want to fast through breakfast. They decide when they want to go out on earth, when they want to put their hands in soil and plant things. They decide when they want to rest for the day. They decide when they want to do parts of their life schooling schedule, which they do have a small schedule. But they get to decide when they want to do it during the day. It's a very lax system that we have, but it's a system that works for us, for each child. So there's a difference. My children have a sense of freedom that will not be a sense of freedom that the children in the government indoctrinated systems think that they have, but they don't.
Children naturally have real side experiences with the guides. As before, indoctrination into the literalized school systems, they have that connection to the real awareness and the real guides that are a part of that real awareness isness reality before solidifying themselves into the limited bubble created realities of the personal consciousness. The guides will realize they have rather this limited time window to provide these experiences before the child is locked down into an impenetrable personal self cocoon of limitation, and will then create a kind of experiential program that works with the time they have but that will terminate as the child becomes literalized. But with the children retaining this connection to their real awareness through the homeschooling, is it the case then that the real side experiences escalate and open up far more so than would be the case were indoctrination looming on the horizon? Are you finding, or is it your opinion, that these children are having far greater real side experiences, awareness bolstering speaking, than you or any adult did as children?
Speaking from our household and this information, and them having the information of real side experiences and dream visions, what great information it is, by the way, that has been brought through. That book is the #1 book that it just start there. For us to sum up this, it's a challenge because each child is only able to recall, even when they're trying, even when they go with intent, maybe 1 to 2 real side experiences a week. So this is a challenge for me to answer. Also, in addition, because I don't recall navigating into my dreams as a child, nor into my teen years, nor into my beginning adult years. So I can't answer that either, meaning for than I or any adult did as children. It just wasn't part of any awareness that I recall. Dreams just weren't even spoke of really at all. I mean, other than the ones of the cliche, oh, you're falling in your dream? Oh, okay. And they give all these ideas for what that means when you're falling in your dream. So other than that little tidbit, I might not be able to answer this question very well because we are still navigating real side experiences with the children and kind of going at their own pace and what they see and what they're experiencing. The main part for me was making sure that they understand it's okay what they're experiencing. It's interesting. It's endless. It can be anything. They can set an intent. They can communicate. However, it will take time and it will take training with themselves, but I'm always here to help them if they want to. And they very much know that I have been at this for years as well. For years, I've been at this and went through many years of just beating myself up about it to be able to say, hey, kids, we're doing this at the pace of where we're guided. We're doing this at the pace of what's okay for us right now in this moment today. We're doing what we can do. And, so for me, I'm not sure if I can say that either of them have seen the real guides or have been introduced to them. So I can't answer that either. It's been spoken about. They're privy to the information. So that's important for me, is just to make sure that I present the information to them, just as information is presented to kids in the schooling industry, the schooling systems. Information is presented, and I just go from there with the children. So in my opinion, I'm not sure if mine are having any greater real side experiences than any of the other children, other than that the other children don't talk about their dreams at all. So not even homeschooling children that we meet. So that's always curbed as well. That's always curbed when we are around other homeschooling families. A lot of information that my children know must be curbed, because if I don't teach them, for an example, in situations when public school children tell them in casual conversation, or when they're playing basketball, or when they're riding scooters or bikes, hey, there's one God, there's only one God, or hey, did you know this about Easter, or what have you, for an example, and mine run back and they go, hey mom, I did what you told me to do, and I'm glad you taught me to do that, because I wouldn't have known how to deal with that. And that was Jeffrey Clayton, and he's only 7. So for him to come back and say, Sean said this and this, and mom, because of what you told me, I was able to redirect the conversation. And what he did was say, oh, that's good for you, Sean. I'm glad that you have your God. And then he said, can we go play now? Can we go play basketball now? So he He praised the person for where they're at in their journey, because we don't shame people for where they are in their journey anymore. I went through that process of shaming people when I once was those people too. So I'm teaching mine to be empathetic and present kindness, but learn ways to communicate with the vast majority of people they're going to have to be around when they get older. This includes homeschool children as well, because a lot of the homeschool children we're around are not having real side experiences that they're talking about. They're not having dreams and speaking about them. They're having dreams, but they're not having them where it's a part of their life school. It's a part of our life school, so we talk about it daily. So, but it's not a part of anyone that we know their life school. And we have presented the information to people, but there's ways that you do that. And it takes time to get to know families before you present that information. It's just a lot has to be curtailed a little bit. So I would have to say, in my opinion, mine are having more experiences, but they're not currently equipped to bring it through the literal one-dimensional, the sensor fighting the ego, and then they wake up and snap, they can't recall it. So hope that sums that up for you.
And we have a few minutes remaining, so I'll hand it back to Val if he wants to ask any further questions or take the show to its conclusion.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes here left. So I did notice, Wendy, when you said the wellness check, weekly wellness check, that's really what we want people, kids, people, aliens, everybody, animals, to be okay, basically, so they can not be interfered with, and to become more aware and be, going along with their process of becoming more aware. Just be okay. That's what you're providing. You've done a very comprehensive explanation of what you've been up to with your life school. It's very good. I see the challenge that you have too, between guiding them and being, too much interference. But you seem to be doing a great job, and the information is great. I think other parents will enjoy this video, this presentation, and we'd like you to come on again, because you're in the front lines there. You're doing it. So you're the experiencer, and so are your kids, and maybe your kids can come on too, if that's okay later on too, and share their.
They would love it.
Yeah, that would be great to have them on. So yeah, that's all I have. I really appreciate it. Much gratitude. Kevin, you want to say any last words too?
Okay, well, I said as you were saying, Val, that's a very comprehensive overview of the new homeschooling, and I think pretty much everything people would want to know in regards to it was contained in the answers to the questions that I asked. And so it's very likely we'll be doing subsequent and follow-up shows after this one. As Val said, perhaps Wendy will bring her children on, and also Duane will be featuring on possibly a future show as well, where he will be asking Wendy questions and such. And so with the few minutes we have remaining, I think we will just do a round of singing the NUUU song, and that will wrap it up for this show. And so we'll say a few more words there, Val.
Oh no, I think let's plan on having the kids next week as well as Duane. That'd be fun to have everybody on. Yeah, if you can arrange that, Wendy.
Just brace yourselves. Mine are very into their egos. We've been working on that. So
Okay.
They're very theatrical.
Okay. Fun. Let's have fun.
And perhaps your children would like to share some of their real side experiences as well. And if Duane is in attendance as well, he would have the opportunity to help interpret them and speak and help everyone to understand what they're demonstrating and such.
Yeah, that'll give them a focus. When they come on, they'll have something to share that way.
Okay, we'll finish off then with singing the NUUU song. And so, Wendy, would you like to go first?
Sure. NUUU, NUUU, NUUU,
NUUU.
NUUU. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Kevin. See you next week.
Thank you guys. Thank you for the
Bye.
questions, Kevin.
Bye-bye then. We'll see you next week then. Goodbye.